Ever since at least the 19th century, Uncle Sam has evolved into one of the most famous representations of America. In fact, Samuel L. Jackson brought this characterization to life in front of President Donald Trump and millions of viewers during Kendrick Lamar's halftime show for the 2025 Super Bowl. But how did the most iconic personification of the United States actually come to be? The answer, at least according to the only story authorized by Congress, is actually tied to a meatpacker from upstate New York, one whom many in his hometown saw as an uncle of sorts. Oh yes, there is history here. The tradition of using personifications for countries and governments is nothing new. It's one that actually dates back to ancient Rome. And if you glance across political cartoons over the past 100 years, you'll often see the same figures pop up as stand-ins for their nations. Britain has John Bull, France has Marianne, and Germany, Germania. And at first, the United States had Columbia. Columbia, who took her name from the explorer Christopher Columbus, first appeared in the 1600s. She initially represented the untapped potential of the newly discovered continents across the Atlantic that Columbus famously stumbled upon. But over the ensuing century, she evolved from a representation of North and South America to represent a certain set of 13 British colonies. And by the Revolutionary War, she gained a sidekick, one who is often described as a stand-in for the federal government. At first, it was Brother Jonathan, who often appeared as a genteel man with a top hat. His name arose from a derogatory term the English gave to the first European settlers in the colonies, the Puritans. But as Jonathan transitioned into more of a symbol for New England, another, more patriotic-appearing figure with a top hat took his place. That man, of course, is Uncle Sam, and he continues to play a prominent role in how Americans in the world views the US today. Truth be told, the true origin behind the term Uncle Sam actually remains unsettled. The American Antiquarian Society, for example, has addressed questionable rumors that it was used as early as the Revolutionary War. Others say Federalist Party newspaper editors came up with it as a derogatory term for the US government during the War of 1812. And the USS Constitution Museum even notes that a Navy midshipman named Isaac Mayo used the term in a journal entry from March 24, 1810. But on September 15, 1961, the US Senate passed a resolution, with the House of Representatives concurring, that established Uncle Sam's definitive origin story once and for all. How? By declaring a humble meatpacker from Troy, New York, to be the man behind Sam. That individual, Samuel Wilson, was not originally from Troy, and he never had a white beard or owned a patriotic coat. This Sam hailed from what is now Arlington, Massachusetts, where he was born in 1766, before spending his formative years in Mason, New Hampshire. And much like the Uncle Sam we all know, Wilson was very patriotic from the start, of the Revolutionary War, that is. According to Samuel's hometown paper, the Arlington Advocate, he worked as a messenger for troops before enlisting into the Continental Army as a teenager, likely between the ages of 13 and 15. While in service, he was responsible for tasks related to his future career path, namely herding cattle and packing meat for troops. This duty was very crucial for the Continental Army, as it was common practice for enemy troops to try poisoning or otherwise compromising the military's food supply. After he was discharged around the time of the Battle of Yorktown, which ended the Revolutionary War, Samuel would make his way to Troy, New York, where he settled down with his first love, Betsy, and had 4 children. But he would also capitalize on his meatpacking background to start a new venture in his new home. For this, he teamed with his brother Ebenezer to launch a meatpacking supplier called E&S Wilson. As he built this business into a regional powerhouse, Sam became a well-known figure around Troy, and it was not just because of his distinctive boots, cutaway coat, and top hat. Rather, it was the way he gave back to his neighbors in his community. He was the kind of person who would pitch in on a whim to help workers around town with their tasks, something he did quite often. He was also very popular with his children's friends. In short time, many in Troy saw Samuel as family, as an uncle of sorts. In fact, his children's friends liked Samuel and Betsy so much that they started calling them Uncle Sam and Aunt Betsy respectively. The nickname also caught on with the many workers Samuel helped around town, who started using Uncle Sam as a term of endearment. But how did this local figure gain national renown? Mainly due to his contributions to the War of 1812. While Samuel did not serve on the front lines as he did in the Revolutionary War, he helped feed those who were. Not only did he and his brother land an extensive contract to provide meat and pork to the US Army's northern troops, but he also became a government meat inspector. And in this role, he worked with a contractor named Albert Anderson to check and send out containers of meat to the troops, all of which were easy to point out on his ships. At the time, contractors were required to stamp their initials on food packages to clarify where they were sourced, and Wilson followed this to to a T, slapping the initials EA and US on these battlefield-bound barrels. While the EA obviously stood for Albert Anderson, the second set of initials eventually took on a double meaning, though there are some inconsistent stories around how. One version of this story, as detailed in the March 1979 issue of the U.S. Army Soldiers magazine, involved the governor of New York at the time, Daniel D. Tompkins. It was said that during a visit to E.N.S. Wilson's headquarters sometime in October 1812, Tompkins questioned some of Wilson's employees about what the initials U.S. on the barrel stood for. While the initials US were supposed to stand for the United States, one inspector offered a different explanation, albeit in jest. The worker joked to the governor that the initials in fact stood for Troy's famous hometown uncle, Uncle Sam himself, given his role as the government meat inspector. And it's said that because numerous E&S Wilson plant workers ended up enlisting in the Army, the story spread through the Army's rank and file. Other variations of this story do not credit New York's governor for questioning the initials. The Arlington Advocate, for example, tied the Uncle Sam Association to a worker's deliberate joke or innocent misunderstanding, while a 2024 Wall Street Journal article reported it was a soldier who had asked about the US initials. But no matter how it came about, it did not take long for the association to stick. Newspapers began referencing American troops in the war as Uncle Sam's men, while newspapers aligned with the Federalist Party started using the phrase as a derogatory term for the ruling Democratic Republican government that oversaw the war. And it did not take long for the nickname Uncle Sam to be generally associated with the United States. Over the ensuing years, cartoonists such as Thomas Nast began producing illustrations of the outwardly patriotic Sam we've come to know today, though his appearance went through a number of changes. Some state that Uncle Sam's appearance initially took its cue from a stock character in regional American theater called the Wily Yankee, who wore clothes that would not feel out of place in the famous uncle's wardrobe. On the other hand, the Robbins Library from Wilson's hometown claims that Uncle Sam's appearance is rooted far closer to home, namely, that artists were inspired by the Arlington Advocate's earlier accounts of Samuel's trademark appearance, minus the whiskers, of course. But it was not until World War I when America got acquainted with the version of Uncle Sam we're used to seeing today. That's when illustrator James Montgomery Flagg created a recruitment poster of Sam, modeled on a similarly styled British poster featuring the country's Secretary of State for War. That poster, over 4 million of which were produced between 1917 and 1918, has since become an iconic piece of American history and one of the world's most famous call to actions. All of this, in turn, permanently integrated Uncle Sam into America's identity. As for the real Sam, he would go on to live a long life, passing away in his late 80s on July 31st, 1854. You can find his simple grave at Troy's Oakwood Cemetery, next to his wife's, in front of a more modern marker that honors his everlasting link with America's Uncle Sam. And the legacy of Troy's most famous uncle continues to this day. In addition to declaring Samuel Wilson the true inspiration behind Uncle Sam in the 1960s, Congress also declared Samuel Wilson's birthday, September 13th, to be Uncle Sam Day in a joint resolution passed in 1989. But the honors did not end there. Arlington, for example, held a design contest for a monument honoring Samuel and the town's role in his story. The winning monument, designed by Theodore Barbarossa, debuted on September 11th, 1976, showing Wilson in his older years and honoring the industries and other towns he impacted. You can visit it in the town's Uncle Sam Plaza, close to the site believed to be his birthplace, which might not be a bad place to visit if you visit Arlington for its Town Day, usually held annually on the Saturday closest to Samuel Wilson's birthday. And although Samuel's childhood home in Mason, New Hampshire is a private residence and off-limits to visitors, there are a couple of places you can visit in Troy beyond Wilson's final resting place. These include a riverfront statue honoring the town's beloved uncle, as well as a mysterious marker by the Congress Street Bridge. While the marker is located close to the Hudson River docks where Wilson shipped his famous meat barrels, and is supposed to commemorate where the actual nickname likely was given, some also believe it marks out Wilson's actual gravesite, depending on who you talk to around town. But regardless of whether you visit his real or rumored grave, you will not be able to see Wilson's actual house in Troy. But although it was torn down in 1971, you can still visit the lot where it once stood, which several markers in the area call out today. Was Wilson truly the man behind Uncle Sam? It's unclear based on the evidence, even with Congress's endorsement. With that said, you cannot blame the federal government for crediting someone like Wilson, whose extensive community involvement, generosity, and wartime contributions embody the patriotic ethos that Uncle Sam represents. It just goes to show how even simple acts of service can be enough to launch a timeless legacy. Thanks for watching There Is History Here. If you enjoyed diving into the past with us, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. Both are free to do and mean a lot for helping us grow our channel and reach more people. Your support helps us continue exploring the stories that shaped our world and the unique history that's right under our noses.